The first thing Ethan Walker noticed was not the abandoned wagon. It was the trembling hand hanging over its edge, dusty, bruised, and still refusing to surrender. Dawn stretched across the Arizona frontier, painting the empty land in shades of gold, while silence covered the ranch like a heavy blanket. Ethan, a 49-year-old rancher who had spent years avoiding the troubles of men, knew something was wrong the moment he saw the lonely mule standing beside the gate. The animal was calm, as if it had completed a journey meant to end right there. No rider, no tracks worth following, no voices, only a weathered wagon wrapped beneath a faded canvas. Ethan stepped closer, every instinct warning him to turn away. Instead, he pulled back the cloth. Curled inside was a young woman no older than 23. Her wrists carried deep rope marks. Her face was covered in dust, and exhaustion had stolen nearly every ounce of strength she had left. Her eyes slowly opened, meeting his. Without hope, she whispered, "You paid for me. Finish what you started." Ethan's expression never changed. He quietly sliced the ropes from her wrists and answered, "I never bought another human soul, and I never will." Confusion crossed her face. She had expected cruelty, not kindness. She tried to sit, but nearly collapsed. Ethan caught her before she hit the wagon floor. "You're safe here," he said. "No one owns you on this land." He carried her into the ranch house and placed her beside the fireplace with fresh water and clean blankets. She watched every movement, expecting betrayal in every act of mercy. Ethan left food beside the bed and walked outside to examine the wagon. Hidden beneath the driver's seat was a folded receipt stamped with a black raven symbol he had not seen in nearly 15 years. The mark belonged to Victor Kane, a ruthless trafficker whose name had once filled every frontier town with fear. Ethan crushed the paper in his hand. He believed Kane had disappeared long ago. Seeing that symbol again reopened wounds he thought had healed forever. As he searched the wagon, he found fresh scratches carved into the wood, property delivered, debt collected. His heartbeat slowed instead of racing. That was always when Ethan became dangerous. Someone wanted him involved. Someone expected him to hand the woman back without asking questions. They had chosen the wrong ranch. Inside the cabin, the young woman finally spoke. "My name is Clara." Ethan nodded. "I'm Ethan Walker." She hesitated before asking, "If you didn't buy me, why help me?" Ethan stared toward the endless desert through the window. "Because years ago nobody came when my family needed help. I'm not making that mistake twice." Clara lowered her eyes, struggling to believe him. Before either of them could speak again, the distant sound of hoofbeats echoed across the empty valley. Ethan stepped onto the porch, his hand resting near his revolver. 3 riders appeared on the horizon, moving slowly through the morning dust. They were not searching. They already knew exactly where she was. Ethan looked back toward the cabin and spoke under his breath. "Looks like the war finally found me." If you're enjoying this journey with Western Storyverse, saddle up and subscribe, because the trail ahead is only getting darker. The 3 riders stopped just beyond Ethan Walker's fence, their horses calm, their faces hidden beneath dusty hats. The man in the middle smiled without warmth. "Morning, rancher," he called. "We've come for something that doesn't belong to you." Ethan remained on the porch, one hand resting near his holster, while the other stayed relaxed. "Funny," he answered. "Everything behind this fence belongs here." Inside the cabin, Clara peeked through the curtain, her heartbeat pounding harder with every word. She recognized the black raven stitched onto the leader's coat and felt the fear she thought she had escaped return all at once. The leader removed a folded document and waved it in the air. "Official transport papers," he said. "The girl was purchased legally. Hand her over and nobody gets hurt." Ethan stepped down from the porch, stopping only a few feet from the gate. "Paper doesn't decide a person's worth." The man's smile faded. "You're making an expensive mistake." Ethan's voice stayed calm. "Then send the bill to me." One of the riders reached for his rifle, but before he could raise it, Ethan fired a single warning shot into the dirt between the horses. Dust exploded into the air, forcing the animals back several steps. Silence followed. The leader narrowed his eyes. "You've just declared yourself an enemy of Victor Kane." Ethan answered without blinking. "Then tell Kane he's welcome to come himself." The riders slowly backed away, but none of them looked defeated. They looked confident, as if today's visit had only been a test. Before turning his horse, the leader shouted, "By sunrise tomorrow, every badge in this county will believe you stole company property." They disappeared into the desert, leaving only drifting dust behind. Ethan returned inside and found Clara standing by the fireplace. "They'll come back," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "I know." She looked at him with tears forming in her eyes. "Why risk everything for someone you met this morning?" Ethan stared at the old family photograph hanging above the mantel, because the day people stop protecting strangers is the day evil starts making the rules. Clara finally believed him. For the first time since arriving, she allowed herself to breathe without fear. But neither of them noticed the distant figure watching the ranch from a rocky hill, quietly lowering a spyglass before riding toward Victor Kane with news that would change everything. Stay with Western Storyverse, because the final chapter reveals the secret that started this fight long before Clara reached Ethan's ranch. Before sunrise, Ethan Walker and Clara rode toward the county courthouse, hoping the law would protect what courage already had. But when they arrived, they found Victor Kane waiting on the wooden porch with 2 deputies at his side. A cold smile spread across Kane's face. "You're late," he said. "The law already belongs to me." One deputy stepped forward with forged papers claiming Clara was nothing more than unpaid property. The courtroom fell silent until an elderly judge slowly stood from his chair. "Enough," he said firmly. From his desk, he produced an old ranch ledger written years earlier by Ethan's late father. Hidden inside was a signed agreement exposing Victor Kane's entire trafficking operation. The judge held the document high for everyone to see. "These papers prove Kane has been buying and selling innocent people under false records for years." The deputies exchanged nervous glances before removing their badges and stepping away from Kane. For the first time, the powerful outlaw looked afraid. He reached for his revolver, but Ethan was faster. One clean draw sent Kane's weapon crashing into the courthouse floor. Moments later, the townspeople surrounded him, refusing to stay silent any longer. As the sheriff placed iron cuffs around Kane's wrists, Clara finally lifted her head without fear. She turned to Ethan with tears in her eyes. "You gave me something no one ever did, a chance to choose my own future." Ethan smiled gently. "Freedom isn't something a person buys. It's something worth protecting." Weeks later, Clara decided to remain at the ranch, not because she owed Ethan anything, but because it had become the first place that truly felt like home. Together they rebuilt the old property, proving that trust is earned through actions, never ownership. The lonely ranch that once welcomed only silence now echoed with hope, laughter, and a future neither of them expected. If you enjoyed this unforgettable Wild West journey, subscribe to Western Storyverse and ride with us for more original frontier stories where courage always outlaws fear.